Hello everyone, Danny from the Community Broadcasting Association of Australia here. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session, Contribute to Current Affairs with The Wire. Thanks for taking time out of your day to get involved in today's session. We're broadcasting from Gadigal land at the moment, so I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay respects to elders past and present, acknowledging that sovereignty was never ceded. If you'd like to shout out the traditional owners of the land from which you're joining us, you can please feel free to do so in the instant message box. Of course, today's session is Contributing to Current Affairs with The Wire, so lucky to have producer for The Wire, Roderick Chambers, joining us to take us through. Don't want to do the thank you for joining us just yet. I'll be running through Rod's presentation. He will be speaking to it. I'm just going to bring it up now. About how to pitch your story to The Wire. And Rod, we have the, hopefully you're seeing the first slide of yours there now.
We certainly are.
And you can feel free to start speaking to it whenever you'd like. Ladies and gentlemen, Rod Chambers.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in or looking at us on your Zoom meeting or on Facebook, wherever you are. And, of course, The Wire is the premier program, current affairs and news and current affairs program for the CBAA. And, of course, it is for us too here. I'm from 2SER FM, but The Wire is run by 3 stations, 4EB in Brisbane and Radio Adelaide in Adelaide. And we, of course, have been combining over the years to, over 15 years actually, it was our 15-year birthday last year, to bring current affairs to people all over Australia through the Community Radio Network. And of course, we've been lately getting a lot of contributions from a number of stations around Australia, and it's really good to do that. That's why we are interested in connecting with you today, because look, we've got all of the great community radio stations doing things in their own areas and finding out what is going on there, and often it means it's something that's really important that we hear around the nation as well. And so that's why we're sort of looking to reach out to you guys and seeing if you could contribute to The Wire, because we're interested in your stories. So Matt, perhaps move on to the next one, Danny. Right, now this is, if you haven't heard it, this is the way we begin the program. That was good, wasn't it? So that was the sound of The Wire. If that didn't work, you can easily go to the website, thewire.org.au. Can you do that? There we go. Click. No, it didn't work. Worked before. Doesn't matter. That was the, it's supposed to be the sound of The Wire at the beginning of the program. I think, maybe, wonder if I can play it here. If I've got, oh, there we go.
That's working now?
Yeah.
Looking back at the data, which is from 1980 to 2015, there are already people moving because of climate change.
How climate change is moving the world's population around, and
gone through a bit of a rough patch, and it was in a bit.
Right. Yeah. So that's how we start The Wire. And what we do, we have our signature music, which always triggers endorphins going for me, because I think, oh, hey, we're on. But I hope it does for everybody else as well. And then we have 2 grabs at the top of the show, which is the one of, you might have just heard a couple of them there. And that is from the stories. And we're aiming to take some of the stories that are coming up later in the program, give you a taste of them at the beginning. These are some of the things you're going to hear, and that's how we start The Wire. And, you know, of course, we're looking to get a broad range of stories that are attractive to a broad range of people, so that, you know, you can never really predict what's coming up on The Wire. That's one of the beauties of it. And it's current affairs, so things that are happening now, and hopefully things that are important to you when you're listening. So if you want to move on to the next one, Danny. Right. So one of the things that we talk about in The Wire, and the reason we have this program, is to advance public debate. So we're looking to bring in new ideas and to get people to talk about them. It's important for our democracy. It's important for the country that we have the things that are going on, the current affairs that are happening. We are able to talk about them and to get people who do know a lot about the particular subject. So we do try and get the best experts or the people on the ground or somewhere where it was just happening. Um, we want to find out about things that are going on for the environment, education, social justice, politics, global, national, and the arts as well. And any sort of research which comes under the education banner, something new that's coming out. We often have the benefits here at 2SER because we're run by or owned by a couple of universities of getting some of the research that the universities are doing first, and we can get those stories out to people and perhaps even start debate. That is something that we think we can do. Also, we like to, if we can, utilize the resources of some of our sister stations out there in the community radio network. I was just thinking, as I was talking there, it was wonderful to get to talk to someone in Townsville when we had the last cyclone was building in North Queensland, and when we got to find out exactly how the people were reacting and what they'd stocked up on, and sort of what it feels like to be preparing for a cyclone to hit your town, because not everybody gets to feel that, thank goodness. But it was really interesting to hear that, and it turned out to be a very good story. So we're trying to always look at stories that are interesting and that can make a difference to the way people hear their or consume their current affairs and news, and to make a difference to the way the debate is going here in the country. Next one, Danny. Yeah, so I guess I've gone a bit ahead there. We try to get sources that are on the ground. Now, actually, just yesterday we found out that was going to be a protest by two of the Aboriginal groups in the area around the Adani coal mine, at the Carmichael coal mine. And we had a bit of trouble, but we got onto someone that was on a satellite phone, actually at the gates there where they were protesting. Of course, the story was that they had issued an eviction notice to Adani to close up and get off the land, and then they'd gone to the site and they were protesting at the site. We got some pictures from the site, and that was something really that wasn't you're not seeing on Channel 7 or the ABC or anything. It's something that we were able to do, and we had the voices of the Aboriginal people who were very concerned about this coal mine. So next one, Danny. Yeah. So look, one of the things we are trying to do is to not just follow slavishly what is happening elsewhere in the media. I mean, of course, if it's a national conversation about something, if it's a conversation about climate change, or if it's about mining, we've got some people trying to put through changes now about uranium mining, for instance. So it's not that we're not going to follow these particular topics. It's just that we want to hold the people to account that are putting forward some of these views. I mean, in the New South Wales Parliament, it's a number of people. There's been changes in the way that they're approaching it today. The Liberal Party isn't going to follow Mark Latham, which I think is probably something that is a good thing. I don't know. And we are open to all views of here, of course, on The Wire. And we don't want to talk about identity politics in particular groups, Canberra gossip. I don't know. Look, there can be a fine line with these things. If you'd a couple of little while back, we had the Barnaby Joyce scandal, and he did that television interview. We don't want to particularly talk about him having a new child and whether the new child, when he had it, we're more interested in finding out if there's been any corruption going on. Were any electoral funds used to provide accommodation, or was, how was the office staff used? Were they used correctly? That's the sort of thing we want to hold people to account. We're not interested in doing the Women's Weekly tour of the house, or finding out where they're living and all this sort of thing. So we're not trying to play the person, but if there is going to be corruption going on, if someone does need to be held to account, then certainly we do want to find out about it. And yeah, that's politics, of course, and we do cover politics, but we cover other things as well, and we try and talk to people in a way that is simple and in their own voice. So we don't want to use a lot of the jargon that often gets to be used on most of the media. So maybe on to the next one now. Thank you. Yeah. And of course, we do adhere to the community radio codes of practice. Um, and we also, of course, we know we're in radio. We want to make it interesting. We want to make it a good radio story. We try and get some good audio, some things, some grabs of people that are communicating when they're upset, when they're happy and exultant, when they're sad, when they're really concerned about an issue. We want to get that communicating across to you, because we are a radio program and we want to make sure that the radio content is going to be interesting, as well, of course, as, abiding by all the codes of practice. We don't want to be doing anything that is going to harm people and cause any problems for any of our stations that we're playing on as well. So we need to make sure that our stories are checked out, that the stories are true, and that we have people on that aren't extremists who are trying to push particular views. And that's, of course, comes out of the original community radio codes of practice, which we're all abiding by. So perhaps move on to the next one, Danny. Yeah. So, what is the difference between news and current affairs? So, the news stories which you hear, of course, are quite short. You may get a very short grab from somebody talking about something, and there's certain things that. And so it's not in depth. You just get to hear the what and the who. With current affairs, we're kind of looking more at the how and the why, like what is going on behind this story. So here we've got a shark coming up here. We've had quite a few shark attacks lately, and we have done stories on sharks before. And the stories that we do, we kind of look at, well, people are very scared of sharks, naturally. Um, there have been a number of shark attacks recently. They're always, big headline news. But how many have there been really? We might talk to someone who studies sharks, and perhaps great white sharks, and where they go, what we've found out about them recently. Do they, in fact, really like the taste of humans, or why is it that we are getting these shark attacks? Are they mistaking people? Is there a bit of a problem with shark food? Their normal seafood fare is somehow missing because maybe it's from overfishing. Who knows? Maybe it's from the change in temperature of the oceans. We try and look at those sorts of things rather than, a person was dragged off a boat in Tasmania by a shark. Those sorts of things. So that's the news story, and of course, and what is behind that is the current affairs story. So we're not looking at trying to bring you the latest shock announcement, or the latest in what's going on in the AFL with Gillan McLachlan, or anything like that. We're trying to find out, perhaps if we're looking at sport, we're looking more at the sports marketing, or the science, or the way that that people are being used and abused in in sport and being thrown on the scrap heap or something, and the effect psychologically on a person who has to leave a high profile position. Maybe they're the sorts of things we'd look at rather than the actual headlines that you see in the few minutes of news that you get in a news bulletin. So it's a longer story and it's a more in-depth story. Next one. Right. So the in current affairs, I think I've gone ahead here, haven't I? We're looking at some of the ways in which to broaden the story and to look at some of the other implications. So what are the sort of things that could be a problem? If you look at what's happened on the New South Wales North Coast, around Ballina and some of the beaches around there, there's some that have been completely closed at various times. If there's been a shark attack, of course, people want to be feeling safe, and the authorities that are running that particular beach in that area need to make sure that they're doing everything they can to keep people safe, and let them know that there's going to be a risk if they do decide to ignore everything and go into the water at a particular time. I mean, if you know there's a shark about, you don't really want to be going in the water. So they're going to be looking at all those sorts of things. So we might talk to a number of local authorities, because there's a number of views on what you do with these sorts of issues, and people in different areas have different views. And a lot of people were saying, well, this is the sharks' territory, this is where they live. Why should they be left alone? We should be the ones that are being careful. Uh, don't blame the shark. It's doing what it does normally. And other people are saying, well, I've had a friend, I've had a relative, I've had someone that's been attacked by a shark. And it's a really horrible experience. I was there. I saw this. How do you recover from that? What are the ways that people can get over that sort of trauma? Is this unusual? Are we just getting a lot of media hype and beat up about it, or is it something that is actually on the rise? Are we seeing a change in the way that things are happening? And of course, like with the bushfires and so forth, we look what happens overseas. What are other people doing to deal with a particular threat or a particular news story? So, if you look at the bushfires, we had a chat with on a bushfire story with some people who were looking at the ways in which different countries approached bushfires. People in Portugal, Spain, Greece, they'd had some bad bushfires, as well as California as well. So we had a look at the way that they approached it, and the way in which they were attacking this problem, and and how we then should inform the way that we do things here in Australia. And were we doing that? Turned out, of course, that there's a very good dialogue going on between many of the countries that do have bushfires, and you may have heard just recently the Californian people, the governor, I think it was asking for help from Australian bushfire fighters for their wildfires, as they call them, were going on over there. Next one, Danny. Yeah, so how do we make this show work? Well, we've sort of honed down a bit of a formula over the years, and we've got generally 4 to 5 stories. So we're running stories which run from probably from 3 minutes. We don't have much under 3 minutes. Up till about 5.5, sometimes 5.5 minute stories if they're a complex story with a number of voices. And we run the stories in an order which we try and provide something that's of interest to everyone. So we look for the top story, which is generally the national story of the day. So it may be something that you are seeing on all of the other media platforms, but we don't run the same story. We try and get some other angle to the story. If there's something that isn't being covered, we look for something that isn't being covered, how it's affecting regional communities, if it's something that people are talking about. Generally, maybe if we were talking about coronavirus and they're talking about the way that people are being locked down in Melbourne, we may try and find out, well, how are people being locked down in a regional town, or what's it like if you're in a border community and you're a long way away from services, and how do you then get those services? So we might look at things like that. We have little stings and music things. I've got one here. I might just try and play. I don't know if it's going to be too loud. Let's see how that goes.
Hey there, I'm Hamish McDonald. Around Australia, you're listening to The Wire. Take it easy.
Yeah, so because Hamish McDonald is, so much of the loose end, being on radio, TV, everywhere, we decided to grab him and get that little grab from him, which we've run as one of our stings between stories. So just links things, gives you a bit of music relief, and changes, I guess changes the gear a little bit, and keeps people listening. So it's a little bit to just bring a couple of the stories together. And of course, it also helps us balance up the time, because we've got to run to 25 minutes and 50 seconds for the community radio network, so that news can be, NRN news can be played at the top of the show. But we have these so that we can sort of think, well, we've got an extra 30 seconds or an extra 15 seconds or something. We'll try and run something to bring that together. So it's a bit of a radio thing to make sure that we run to time. And so in the 4 to 5 stories, we're looking at trying to do a good international story, an Indigenous story, a national story, which is the story of the day, and a couple of other stories, maybe research or issues that are going on in education, something that's going on in health. It could be anything. It could be, we could be talking about ethics. I mean, we have one of the stories today. We're talking about, the cells being taken for the vaccine, and it appears that one of the archbishops is a bit upset about that, even though it's been happening for longer than he's been alive. He's now suddenly worried about cells being taken from human material, which, of course, if you wanted something to be safe, you really do have to look at these things, and the science has been doing that for a long, long while. But look, that's some of the stories that we're talking about today. So we need to we need to cover these sorts of things. We try and get different people to different voices, different ways of looking at things. So we might try and get someone who hasn't been talking to the media. I just can't think of anyone at the top of my head, but we'd certainly have a big talk about that in the editorial meeting, which we have at the beginning of the day when we decide which stories we're going to do. So as I said, we do those grabs at the top, which gives you a taste of the stories coming up. And then we try and have a mix of stories. We often do an art story as well. We may get an author on who's written a very interesting book. Someone who's won an award for music and play some of their music, or it could be dance, or it could be a movie, anything like that. And it just adds a little bit of a different color to the presentation, and some interest, and often in the middle or towards the end of the program, adds a bit of relief to perhaps some of the more dire things that are happening in our world. We also definitely try and get live interviews. If in these COVID times, it could more likely be a Zoom or something like that, with someone overseas maybe. But we always do telephone interviews, because that's the easiest way to get people quickly. It's, people have the phone in their pocket, and yes, they're available at a certain time, and we'll try and get to them then. And as I said, we've got our little stings. We played one of them there. And we have the wire music, which also has various sort of iterations. There's a nice connecting piece I call it when I've got somebody else paneling for me, I say, play the dum-de-dum-dum track, which is number 3. and it's just kind of the percussion parts of The Wire. And the reason I like to use that is because you can use any part of it and it sounds fine. You know, it's just like a nice little bridging piece of music. So that's how we sort of put it all together. Next slide, Danny. Right. So, you know, if you haven't looked at the website, go and have a look at it, thewire.org.au. And we're also on podcasts as well. So if you look up The Wire Radio, we have a bit of a problem with some of the major media because there's a little program called The Wire in the US, which is a very, very good produced TV program. But so that can come up a lot. So if you generally put in The Wire Radio, it tends to bring us up a lot easier. So if you go to our website there, you can go through, there's a search mechanism at the top there. Mechanism is the right word, isn't it? Little search, the little magnifying glass at the top there, you can look for particular subjects or people or things. Or, you know, even if there's a reporter you particularly like. I have a friend who used to like Lachlan, who's been on our 2SER wire here for the early part of the year. And she just used to like listening to Lachlan. And she goes, oh, when's Lachlan on again? So I said, well, you could go and listen to all of Lachlan's stories by putting his name in at the top there. So you can do that. It'll play it'll play the whole production if you want to listen to the whole of The Wire and you didn't get a chance to listen to it on your local radio station or on the CRN. And or on the streaming from our 2SER website as streaming. I think Radio Adelaide does as well, and Brisbane. And of course, you can also go to the individual stories. So if you click through, you can go to the individual stories, and they also you can play them separately, and you get the intro for the story and just hear that particular part. So if you're interested in one thing, you can also do that. There's also a way to connect back to us as well. You can send comments back to us and suggest story ideas if there's something that comes to you. I had one the other day where someone was saying we've got some issues here with women, Aboriginal women, particularly here in inner Sydney, and maybe it's happening elsewhere, and we should try and find out, which I've got that on the list of things to do. And it's how they access services and in particular the way that often police approach Indigenous people, and it's a different way, and perhaps it shouldn't be a different way. So we're going to have a look at that and see if we can find out a bit more about that. So look, that's a pretty simple website, so I probably shouldn't blather on too much about it. Move on to the next one, Danny. Sorry, a bit of a cough there. Now, at the beginning of the day, we have an editorial meeting. So we get everyone together. And during COVID times, it's been quite difficult. Not everyone, everyone's got different technology at homes. And I'm sure everyone's been struggling with all these sorts of things. But normally we get people together and we have a pitch meeting, and we get I get people to bring in like 2 stories. I've sort of honed it down to saying to bring in 2 stories, and of course we've got our particular stories that we like to cover. You know, international story, national story, an Indigenous story, and a couple of other stories, maybe research based that I talked about earlier, and or you know arts based stories, those sorts of things. And we get together and we talk about them. And so if we've got someone, you know, look, it could be a couple of people who have listened to the news and think, wow, that's really important, but we're not finding out about what's happening in universities, or we're not finding out about what's happening in childcare centres. We're just talking about, you know, people doing, you know, allocations of funding or something. So maybe they've got a particular angle or something, but you might get 2 people coming with a similar sort of story. So they both can't do that story. So that's why I say have another story ready. So we talk about the stories, and often people have contacts or they have ideas. They say, oh, you know, look, actually, I've got someone in Hong Kong at the moment who who works in the services sector, and they're very concerned. They've got a family there, and we've got the protests going on in Hong Kong today. You know, maybe I can contact them for you. So, you know, someone can find someone on the ground that they know, and or they may have an idea that, you know, that maybe they've done a particular course somewhere, and they've got onto some people who are particularly good experts or were doing research in a particular area, and they say, "Oh, look, you know, I know somebody at Monash University that's doing work on this, and you know, I think they were actually looking at this particular topic." So, you know, things like that. The group actually has a lot of things, a lot of assets that they perhaps don't realise they've got. And so that discussion often helps, and that's sort of why we're reaching out to you guys as well, because you see things in your areas, you hear things. Maybe it's not the same things that we're hearing. Maybe it's not the sort of things that are happening around us. We always say here at 2SER that we get a bit of a Newtown bubble sometimes, because so many, you know, the odd announcer and presenter lives in Newtown, and they just get concerned with what's going on there. And so maybe it's not all smashed avocados and lattes, soy lattes. Maybe there's other things happening to other people elsewhere as well. So that's why, you know, we sort of think, well, you know, that's something that we could find out. You know, what's the situation in places where they're experiencing different things. So we then have to, of course, find the people to talk to us, because we're radio. We want to hear people, don't we? We want to hear what they sound like. We want to hear the struggles in their voice, the strain, perhaps the difficulties they're going for, to hear how they're feeling. And so we need to get people, and people, you know, often say to us, "Oh, look, I can send you a press release, or I've done this beautiful, you know, 25-page presentation, which I'll send you, and you can read that on air." And of course, we can't do that, can we? So we say, if we've got to get to talk to us, we need to hear your lovely voice. That's what we need. We need to hear you talking to us, talking to each individual person that's listening to this program. So that takes a lot of time. You know, people are not just sitting around waiting for us on the wire to give them a call. You know, we do get some really good people. We've talked to Anthony Albanese. We've talked to Julia Gillard the other day. We talked to a lot of people, and we want them to be available to us, but of course they're not always available, and sometimes they are, and sometimes, you know, they're really aware of how much The Wire is listened to by people who they're not reaching when they talk to Channel 7. So it's sometimes good that we're very much more regionally focused and talking to people who, you know, aren't that interested in listening to Mel and Koshy or other people that are in mainstream media. So you know, it is good to be on the wire sometimes. You do get people that go, "Yes, I don't want to talk to la la la, but I will talk to you guys." So we do get these people, and so then once we get the people, they've agreed to do an interview with us. Then we've got to sort of get out and do the interviews, make sure we've got the questions. There again, the group also helps. You know, people say, "Look, you know, I really think that a lot of people are worried about this," and so you need to ask a question. You know, is this going to change, and when is it going to change? So we try and do that, and then of course the big thing is, if perhaps we've got a couple of people that have rung back in response and said, "Yeah, you know, we've got something to say about this," and you know, you try and get all sides of the argument. You know, it doesn't matter what you agree with or what you don't agree with. Our job is to put it out there and saying, "Look, you know, these people are saying this. On the other hand, these other people are saying, well, this could be a problem, and these are the reasons why it could be a problem." And then we might have other people saying, "Look, these problems are solvable. We've been doing research into some of these problems, and we think this is the way to get around what's been happening." So, you know, you look at those things and you think, well, look, I've got 3 people now. Well, we do the interviews, we put it together in what we call a package. And that requires a lot of editing, because we may have done, 7 minutes with one person, 5 minutes with another person, 10 minutes with another person. And we've got to put this back together in a story which is maybe 4.5 minutes. So we've got to make some really hard decisions, and you start talking to people, you start to really get invested in what they're saying. You think, yeah, that was a really important point. And suddenly you've got a lot of important points, and you've got to decide which ones you're going to present and how to condense all that information into one thing. And then once we've done all that, we've got to put our links in. So each reporter will go out and then make the connections between all of those different things that people have said and bring it together. And then we put all of that together, of course, in our program. So, our 5 stories, our 4 stories. And then, generally the producer, the person like me is looking at those stories and thinking, well, we've got this person who's got a lot of interesting people with some wide variety of voices, and it's pretty much something that's happening today. Yeah, I think that should be our lead story. So I've got to look at which one goes first, and then what goes over that, after that. So maybe you've got 2 stories which are kind of in the same sort of area. Maybe you've got 2 stories which relate to politics. Well, you don't want to start off with too much politics, because, there's a lot of people that think, I don't really want to hear that all the time. So maybe you would do a different, something that's a contrasting story next. So you're going to try and work out, a nice balance between the stories, different voices. Sometimes people have really interesting voices, and you want to balance those up a bit. You don't want too many old blokes, coming in and telling you about what's happening, with the motor vehicle industry and stuff like that. So you don't want to, you might want to just make sure that if you've got 2 voices that sound a bit similar, you divide those up a bit as well. Things like that to make it sound good, to make it interesting. To give it a bit of a story arc as well. You might go into the more serious stories towards the middle, and then end up on a lighter story at the end to just make you feel a little bit better at the end of the program. So yeah, okay. And then of course we have to upload everything into social media and try and connect in all sorts of different ways, which we do. We go through Twitter, we go through Facebook, and we're also we're trying to do something on Instagram as well, seeing if there's a way we can work things with that at the moment as well. So that's something coming up for us. Probably talked too long on that slide, Danny, but it gets a bit exciting for me. Yeah, so look, I've talked about this a little bit earlier, but look, we are definitely interested in local stories. Just while I've been talking to you, our friendly news director from Bay FM, Mia Ahmed, who's just been trying to contact me, so I'll have to talk to her later. So she's up there in Byron Bay, and they have a community newsroom in their radio station. And if they find something that is going to work for the wire, like if it's going to be something that's going to be a national type story, which people are going to be interested in all around Australia, then she often says to me, "Hey, we've got this story. We did one on the homeless recently. There was a young lad who decided he wanted to do something for homeless people around the Byron Bay area, and he got people to donate stuff. He was giving away stuff. He connected with one of the shelters there. He and he was only, I don't know, I think he was 10 years old or something like that. It was a really wonderful thing, and they got an interview with him, and it was a lovely, lovely story. And it just shows you what people can do. And so that was a really good story. And that came from Bay FM. And we've also talked to Dylan Storer up in the Fitzroy River. Now, if I get this right, Wanki Yuraparingu. Oh, that's not quite right. Sorry, I can't get that on top of my head there. The right name for the radio station they've got up there. But he's also provided some stories for us in the last year as well, which is really great. Wanky, that's right, Wanky Radio. Thank you very much, Maddie. So it's really good to hear these different voices. It's a different, people have a different way of talking in different places about the way things are affecting them, and you start to realize, an area like the world is bigger than just your little world, which is nice. It's nice to know all these things. Right. And yes, and of course, we're looking at contributors of all ages. I just mentioned that we had our 10-year-old there, and yeah, so look, it doesn't matter as long as if people have accents, that's great. As long as we can understand them, of course. If people have a very limited grasp of English, it is hard to put that across on radio. So you have to work out other ways, and there's ways of doing it. But it certainly is. It's lovely to hear people with an accent anyway. So it's a wonderfully rich sort of experience. So I love hearing people with accents. So if they do come from different backgrounds, it's really good to hear as well. Now maybe move on to the next one, Danny. I don't know how many I've got now. What am I up to? Here's some, well, I don't know, maybe have we got time for all these stories? Maybe if we just listen to one, I don't know. You pick one, Danny. Pick one that you'd like to put on the air. Grandma, there we go. Let's hear the Judas Grandma story.
I'm picking the grandmother story, and what I will also do is I will get those links and send them through to everyone at the conclusion of this session.
Amidst the confusion that's marked the early days of the Trump presidency, it appears the US may honour its agreement with Australia to accept refugees from Nauru and Manus Island. But groups like Grandmothers Against the Detention of Refugee Children are concerned about how long it's taking. Late last year, they prepared knapsacks for the children to take to the US and begin their new lives. But the children are still on Nauru and the future remains uncertain. Judith Peppard has the story.
Wise old women know that children need protection, and when their governments fail, they need it ever more from us.
Pamela Kerr from the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, speaking at the rally organised by the Grandmothers Against the Detention of Refugee Children on World Human Rights Day.
Excellent. I thought I'd just...
Yeah, that was pretty good. So there's a lot of stories there. Look, just go and listen to some story that you think is going to be of interest to you. Just have a listen to the way that it works. Of course, everyone does stories a different way, and some are going to sound better than others because we've had more time. At the end of the day, we're really struggling, and always struggling to get the stories out there, to finish something off, to try and clean up someone's ums and ahs, all the which is something that I try and get rid of out of my particular audio, and all those sort of little things that we do unconsciously. It's always hard to get it perfect, and it never is perfect. So some of them are going to be better than others, of course, but have a listen to them and see what you think. So if we're talking about a Wire story, we've got to look at something that fits with the Wire's editorial policy, which is on our website, and it's basically looking at basic good journalism principles. We're trying to get different sides of a story. We're not trying to push a particular barrow that anyone has or any particular campaign that they're on. If there is something like for instance, the campaign that is currently going against the Adani coal mine, what we report on is we report on the campaign, what people are doing, who's engaged in it, why it's important to them. We don't try and push the actual the campaign itself and try and be an advocate for that campaign. So we're looking to provide a more objective story about something, and it's more about looking at the issue and finding the way the issues are going to affect people. We also have to look from the point of view of a national audience. Someone the other day had a really good story for me about the disabled access and a terrible, bureaucratic mess up, which was happening at one of our railway stations here in Sydney at Blacktown. and how they were trying to get this disabled access sorted out, and it had taken far too long. And it was a really good story. But of course, if you're not in Sydney, if you don't get trains in Sydney, it's really not much of use to you, in Dubbo, or in Renmark, or in Cairns, or in Alice Springs. The trains aren't going to be really relevant for you. So that's not sort of a story we can run. So we need to run something that is going to be of interest to everybody. I mean, of course, unless there's been some sort of endemic corruption, which is going to be, found elsewhere in Australia, and something that people need to be aware of. But generally speaking, yeah, you can tell whether it's sort of a local story or not. And this is what happens with some of the stations. They've got to do their local stories, and worried about a local development on a street, and something, a historic building is going to be knocked down. But it may be of more concern to people locally than it is going to be nationally. So you've got to try and think of it in that kind of way. And if you're sending a story through that you want us to cover, then it's got to be people that we're going to be able to get. Some people are very high profile and are going to be very difficult to get, and don't do a lot of interviews. If we want to do a story about Paul Keating, for instance, past Prime Minister, he virtually does interviews with one particular journalist. So it's going to be very, very difficult for us to talk to him. So something like that. And of course, we're looking at stories that have more than one angle to it. So we're not looking to push something, push a campaign. We're looking to find out why the campaign has occurred, who's upset about it, who it's going to affect, who's for it, who's against it, that sort of thing. Next one, Danny. What's called you Andy there? Yeah, so we're looking at 3 to 5 minute stories, as I spoke earlier. So if we're doing like a Q&A with someone, we just got one person, we may be able to get through this and just ask the important questions, the 5 or so important questions that people want to find out. And, we can cover this in 3 minutes. If there's something, if the Australian Medical Association is saying we need to do something with protective equipment, for instance, it doesn't take that long to find out what it is that, when they reckon we should be using masks, what you should do with if you've got COVID symptoms, and that sort of thing. So we can do that sort of a thing in 3 minutes. But if it's a bit more complex, of course, we've got more people. It's a more complex issue. Got different levels, different people affected. Well, then we're going to get more people to talk, and then we'll have to make it a package, which means that you need more time to do that. For the presenter beginning, which is where you're introducing the story, we want to give people an idea of what the story's about in the first paragraph, maybe pose a question or give an idea of the issue that we're exploring, and then go through into lead into the story. So that's kind of what the 3 parts are. Next slide. Click. Yes, so the good thing about radio is all we need is someone's voice. And we have this wonderful thing called the mobile phone these days, or you could call all sorts of things. That's probably the older term for it. But, it's not, everyone has little apps on their phone. It's not that hard to find the voice recording app that you have, and there's a number of good ones. We can perhaps send through a couple of ideas. And you can, there's even some that have some rudimentary editing on them. So you can really start with something just as simple with your phone. If someone's talking about something and you're there, perhaps just say, hey, look, I'm from this station. Do you mind just giving me, answer a few questions for me so that I can send it through? Stuff like that. That's really good. If you have a microphone, you can plug that in maybe to your phone, depending on the sort of phone that it is, and then that'll be easy. Or else, of course, if you're going to the next level, you've got little Zoom recorder. And look, some of those recorders aren't that expensive. You can probably get one of those really quite easily. You get quite really good, just our very basic Zoom H, I think we've got an H2N, which is the little one. It does really good, just with its microphone, it does some really good sound. So you can get that quite easily if you go out with that. Just have to be aware of all the surrounding sounds with those, because they are looking, their microphone is a omnidirectional one. Bit of editing equipment. Audacity is free. You can download that and use that. And of course, you need an internet connection. And these days, I think, it's a bit hard not to have one. Even your home appliances are connected to the internet these days. So. Next one, Danny. Yeah, so when you're thinking about a story, what is the story? I often get people saying, "Oh, we've got climate change is an issue for many people in schools and so forth, and they're really students are really kids are really worried about it, and we want to do something about that." And da 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 da. Okay, see you later, Justin. Thank you for being with us. Hope you've got something out of it. So you have to think about what actually is. You've got to look for an angle. You've got to look for something about this. Okay, what is there been some report you've seen on climate change? Because we've heard a lot about it. So what is going to be new and interesting about it? That's what we've got to find out. So what are we going to talk about this time? And then how are we going to best tell this story? Who should we talk to about it? Is it someone that's done something on it before, and what are they going to bring to the discussion? What do you think? Are they just going to talk? Are they going to talk themselves up about something? Maybe you're talking to someone who is head of a corporation who really their main motivation for coming on the radio station is, or to the program, would be to try and spruik their own products. So you have to be aware of that and try and make sure that you don't become an advertisement for whatever it is that they're trying to push. And of course, a lot of people like to put a lot of context. We're going to talk about the context of this. We've had global warming for many years, and through the Industrial Revolution and da 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 da. Yeah, we can't talk about that. We've got to say, look, what are we going to do about the emissions for this year? Are we going to meet them? Is the reports true that there's been a change in the economy, and it means that there's going to be more or less, or we were exporting too much, or what is it that's going to cause the problem? So we've got to get to the point in the questioning for the story. So that comes down to making sure you've got good questions. And find out the how, when, why, who, when. Oh dear. How, when, why. Anyway, you know what I mean. Next slide, please, Daddy. Was that it? Have we reached the end? Oh, there we go. Right to us. There you go. Oh, callers. Yes, callers. Look, you can always call me here at 2SER, 02 9514 9563. You can send pictures through. Callers, send us an email. You can send something through via the website. You can always, so the three stations that are part of the Wire website have all of the contact information there. You can always call the CBAA if you think who's the best person to call, because we do the Wire on different days in each station. We do the Wire here at 2SER on Mondays and Tuesdays in Sydney, and the Wire pitches packs up its tent and cabs in Radio Adelaide for a couple of days on Wednesday and Thursday. You have Annie Hastwell and Sarah Martin there. And then it picks up, the caravan moves on and moves to Brisbane on Fridays at 4EB. And there you have Stephen Regal there, or sometimes Eduardo is also doing the Wire there when Stephen can't do it. So we also have a big group of people up there at 4EB. and they're doing the wire there. So you can contact them as well. So it may be that you want to do something on a particular day. There's something happening, there's a protest happening or something, and you want to see if we can get some pictures or get some coverage. Yeah, that's the way to do it. But if you have something in your station, perhaps you want us to get something for you. Maybe we could do an interview for you. There's somebody going to be in Sydney on a particular day, and it'd be a good story. And it's someone from your area, or it's someone that is important to some of the programming that you're running. Well, we'll try and we can get them in here to our studios and perhaps get a really good interview for you. So that's something we can do. It's all about cooperation, trying to get things through, get us. We've got a huge amount of people when you think of it, all over Australia, all sorts of different people from all different areas with lots of different knowledge. We've got a huge base of knowledge and wisdom out there, and people that have experienced things, and so that's what we want to hear. So look, it's just a matter of getting on the phone, getting an email out there, doing something. Look, even if you're on our Facebook page, that sort of thing, you can communicate with us that way. Although it's a bit harder, for us to manage sometimes, because we've got different teams working on it each different day, because we've got lots of different people working on the wire, which is great. But look, just give us a call if you've got anything, what's on your mind. Tell us what's on your mind, what's worrying you in your area. So that's something we can do. So yeah, please get out there. It's so easy. If you see something happening, take a picture of it, ask somebody about it, say, look, hey, do you mind if I just record it? And we can often get some really good stuff that way. And it's something that nobody else will have, Channel 9, when they've got their crew out by then, you'll have been there and you'll have seen it and you'll have got it. And that's a really great thing to do. It's a great thing to do for people all around Australia. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Danny, anything you've got to add from the CRN, CBAA angle?
Not at the moment. I'm just putting through all of just going through all the rest of the slides there with this information.
Yeah.
We'll make these slideshows available to everyone who's registered for this webinar, so that'll be in a follow-up email coming. Brianna Devlin asks, Rod, what was the number you mentioned?
My number here at 2SER is 0295149563.
Excellent. I'm just going through a few. Notice how close we are to midday. Just going through the rest of the slides here, just sort of stuff.
Sorry.
Lines. If you want to speak on that one quickly, Rod.
Yeah, sure. Our deadlines have brought forward because of the way we have to work with COVID. So we have to upload everything a bit earlier. So we finished our day at 3 p.m. So you've got to get on to us really, around lunchtime at the latest if you could. So that, it's ideally at the beginning there. Yeah, and any sort of audio you've got, there's a lot of other audio online that you might want to use for some of the programming or any of the interviews or pieces that you might be wanting to do as well. So there's a few there. You can get news grabs from ABC's News 24 and pick that up. Anything that's a press conference is kind of free, so anyone can go there. So that's something you can use. If you're trying to pick up something that Ray Hadley did on 2GB, don't do it. You've also got YouTube clips, of course, as well. And you can we've put some stuff up on YouTube. And of course, if people have sent out any sort of promo stuff, you can use those as well. Something that's come from the PR people. And Atmos, get some things, think where have I heard it sounds like that? It's being part of your environment and listening. Yeah, a lot of audio out there that you can get.
And we do have, we can refer people to our creating content remotely and our other various audio editing sessions, as well as the audio editing sessions that are available from the Community Media Training Organisation. If you're looking at this picture at the moment, which is an Adobe Audition window, which is a digital audio workstation. If you're not familiar with this, we do have a lot of information that will show you how to use sort of the majority of digital audio workstations. They are sort of very similar, where it's sort of multiple tracks there, and all those little blocks there represent pieces of audio. You see them sort of all edited there together. You'll note,
and you can see the links on the third line there. That's the announcer, the presenter, bringing together the blocks.
That's right, and we've got lots of stuff on that. There you go. There's a few links to that software there. Audacity is a great one to check out. It's free. We'll be sending links to that.
Yeah, it's the right price. You want to get out there and get Audacity.
And it's getting better and better. It's more than professional enough for you to create broadcast quality audio.
Yeah, we're quite fortunate here at 2SER. We're on a main road and we hear protests going by, and I run downstairs with my recorder and talk to people.
That's exactly right here. A bit more stuff here. Do you want to just speak on this introduction?
Sure.
Quickly, Rob.
Sure. Yeah, so you need to think about the introduction. You're trying to get some idea of the story through, and without telling the whole story. But so it might be the issue that you're talking about, the big question that people are asking. But it has to be quick and short, and not too much blather. Now, so don't listen to what I'm saying. Make something work for yourself, and think about things the way that other people produce things as well, and the way that they put in add a bit of color to the intro. And it's generally like about, as we said before, three paragraphs which describe something of what give you a bit of a taste of what's coming up.
And there we go. Ironically, the word on intros was the outro.
Hey, how about that?
Thanks very much, everyone, for taking the time out today to take part in our webinar. I will be following up with all of our registrants here to see if they've got any follow-up questions. I'll also be letting people know about our future webinars that we've got here, as well as past webinars that will have information that is of use to you. Rod, thank you so much. Do you want to just give out your contact details one more time to all our participants?
Yeah, sure. Look, you can contact me here at 2SER, Roderick at 2ser.com, and it's the number 2, Roderick at 2ser.com. Or you can call us on 02 9514 9563.
That number again is 02 9514 9563.
Oh, yeah. You're a good radio man, Danny.
Call now.
Call
Rod
now.
is waiting to talk to you.
9514 9563. Sounds like I'm on a supporter drive.
Yeah. He's got steak knives, I'm telling you.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Only a set of 5, though. I used one earlier. So
That's it. Thanks very much, everyone. Contribute to The Wire. It's an absolute wonderful program, one of the flagship programs of the community broadcasting sector, and is, I would suggest, the best possible way to present news and current affairs that aren't available via channels elsewhere. Thanks very much, Rod, for taking the time today to navigate Zoom with us.
Yes. Thanks, everybody, for being with us.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us live, and everyone who joined us on Facebook. We'll see you for more CBAA webinars soon. This is Danny Shifley from the CBAA signing off.